Good morning, and thanks for tuning in to Dying to Bloom. My name is Carrie Potter, and this is a monthly show that talks about burial choices. Now, it's natural not to want to talk about this topic. However, as a culture here in America, we've distanced ourselves more than others with the topic of death, and I hope to ease the fear and provide information to help you make the right choice for you. The fortune from a fortune cookie I happened to get yesterday said, "The only good is knowledge and the only evil is ignorance." Today we will be talking about donating your body to science. My guest will be from the Anatomical Gift Program at SUNY Downstate Medical Center. But before we get into that topic, I would like to talk briefly about a meeting I went to this week. The DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, and state parks released the New York State Open Space Conservation Plan for public comment. The state's open space plan is updated every 3 years, and the draft plan makes recommendations on how open space conservation will help accomplish the governor's goals, which include greening New York's economy, protecting natural resources, and promoting outdoor recreation, creating a 21st century park system that's aesthetically compelling, energy and operationally efficient, built to last, and working to address climate change. It is built upon the recommendation of regional advisory committees, and public forums are being held throughout the state, and I attended one on Tuesday evening at Bear Mountain Inn. While I am a member of the Rockland County Environmental Management Council and our chair, Natalie Patisal, was also in attendance, the reason I went and spoke was to request consideration in adding green cemeteries to the Open Space Conservation Plan as a means of land conservation. So as a reminder, a green cemetery is a burial ground that remains a natural habitat. There's no clearing of the land, there are no headstones, there's no embalming, there is no chemically treated green lawn, and there are no concrete vaults. Instead, the graves are hand dug to keep minimal disturbance to the land. Bodies are buried in biodegradable pine coffin or a woven wicker casket or shroud, and they actually decompose, nourish the earth, and help plant life. Thus the name of this show, Dying to Bloom. You may have heard of the phrase pushing up daisies. Well, that's the way to do it. As much as I would love to take credit for this idea, it's already being done. There are land conservation cemeteries that are utilized as open space for hiking. They remain a natural habitat for animals. The cemetery mission could include eradicating invasive species and planting native plants at the gravesite. Natural indigenous stones are the only markers permitted. Now, it may sound different, but it's a beautiful site. One of my favorite green cemeteries, Green Springs in Newfield, New York, is so full of wildlife and nature's vitality, it's stunning. The land at Green Springs happened to be donated by the town for the cemetery. Now, the first nature preserve cemetery in the U.S. to be operated by a nonprofit conservation organization is Foxfield Preserve, which is adjacent to the Wilderness Center's headquarters near Wilmot, Ohio. And there, naturalists from the Wilderness Center have restored this formerly agricultural land to native prairie grasses and wildflowers. A section has also been reforested in native hardwoods. Now that is a way to preserve open space. It serves a dual purpose of providing an environmentally friendly burial option and preserves land. The money paid for a burial plot goes into the land trust account. So I gave a little presentation to those in attendance, including the representatives from the DEC and the Department of Parks. And they seemed rather interested in the concept and asked me a few questions. One of them was, don't bodies have to be embalmed? In case you've missed my previous shows, the answer to that is no. There is no legal requirement to embalm a body. A body must be buried or cremated within a reasonable time after death. The previous Dying to Bloom show, I had a guest in, Marilyn Rush, and she discussed caring for your deceased at home. Now, as a reminder, though, New York State is one of 8 states that require the use of a funeral director. And we discussed how there are some funeral directors who are willing to help people care for their own loved ones. However, it is interesting to note that New York is one of the 8 states in the entire U.S. that force us to use a for-profit business to fulfill the interests of the state. Unless there's a court challenge, New Yorkers remain limited in caring for their own dead. There are some statutes regarding members of the clergy being permitted. However, there is still a charge incurred for the funeral director. Perhaps we could go into legislation in a future show because I think that's pretty interesting as well. Another question asked was, is it sanitary to just bury a body? Well, natural burial has been practiced for thousands of years, but it has been interrupted in modern times by new methods such as vaults, liners, embalming, and mausoleums that mitigate the decomposition process. Remains are buried in a green cemetery 3 to 4 feet deep, depending on the soil composition at the cemetery. And the depth ensures that the remains are both undisturbed and return quickly to nature, just like when animals die out in the woods. Someone recently said to me that they also thought cement vaults were a legal requirement because she was told when her loved one passed away that she was required to pay an additional fee for the cement vault. It is not a legal requirement to use a cement vault. However, some cemeteries may require it. Therefore, it may be a rule in a particular cemetery. And again, I believe they also usually charge an additional fee for that as well. We do have green cemeteries here in New York State, and it is a goal of mine to help bring one to the Rockland County area. I made a similar presentation to the Committee for the Rockland County Comprehensive Plan a few years ago, and the use of green cemeteries as a means of land conservation was drafted into the plan. So please consider contributing to the Green Cemetery Fund by visiting rocklandgives.org. You scroll through the list of funds on their website, look for the Green Cemetery Fund, and you can make a tax-free donation right online of any amount. And if you have any questions regarding the fund or would like to contact me, you can email me at dyingtobloom@gmail.com. So I just wanted to share a bit of my experience this week at the Bear Mountain Inn. The state draft plan on open space conservation is a huge binder. The pages on our region, which is Region 3, was about 50 pages alone. You can find it online through the DEC website. That's dec.ny.gov. And they're still taking public comments. The information, again, is on the website. Before we get to our guest, I just want to sum up by saying, again, the overall bullet points: protecting natural resources, greening the economy, improving the visitor experience, and that connects land and people. Well, I couldn't think of a more literal way to connect land and people than a green burial. And there's many ways this can be done. If you think about it, there are a lot of burial plots that already exist on state land. I haven't visited Doodletown yet, but that's one of the places I want to go and check out the cemetery in there as well. As much as I love green cemeteries on this show, Dying to Bloom, I aim to cover a variety of related topics. I am working on doing a future show on cremation as well as a new method of creation that is supposed to be more environmentally friendly called alkaline hydrolysis, which uses water and lye solution. So there's a lot to know about green options. But today, we're going to be talking about anatomical donation, donating your body to science. And joining us on the line is Michael McGillicuddy, Gross Anatomy Supervisor at SUNY Downstate Medical Center. Welcome, Michael.
Good morning, Kerry.
You know, my name is Carrie Potter, and I get quite a few comments referencing Harry Potter. With your name, I just have to ask, you know what it makes me think of, and do you hear that a lot?
Are you talking about my Aunt Lucy? Yes, all the time.
Yes, that's a great name. That name, Michael, just puts a smile on your face. McGillicuddy.
There's not too many of us around.
Well, thanks for joining us today. So you work at SUNY Downstate Medical Center.
Yes, we're down in Brooklyn.
Because we are talking about donating your body to science, do you work with the Rockland County area?
We cover pretty much anywhere in a 150-mile radius of Brooklyn, or the 5 boroughs.
Now, is this a teaching medical SUNY school?
Yes, we are actually a hospital and a medical school, teaching medical school.
Now, we've discussed already on this show before how expensive the funeral and burial process can be, and to me it sounds like donating your body to science sounds like a good way to provide an important service to the sciences and save money.
Yes, it actually helps both. I mean, it helps the students learning firsthand on a human, a deceased human, is an experience. I mean, to have a student dissect the body and look at someone's heart and say, "Wow, this is amazing." They can't learn that from a model, and it's a cost saving to the families. I mean, the only cost that they incur are the cost of a death certificate, which is in upstate, in Rockland, I believe is only $10 a piece. So there's really not a large amount of financial burden on the families.
Now, I did read recently that a study was done at Michigan State University that said cadavers beat computers for learning anatomy. So I guess you would know about that firsthand. But let me start by asking you a few questions. I mean, number one, is there an age requirement, and who can donate?
Well, we generally only accept adults because that's a lot of the students are going to go into elder medicine and things like that. To learn on a student, it's an emotional distress on some of the students, and a lot of their organs aren't really produced, more timely. So they want to have, an adult.
And what type of legal forms are required if an adult in our area wants to do this, make this contribution? What do they need to do legally?
It's actually the person who's in charge of the deceased at the time of passing, an executor, a spouse, a child. They can make the decision to donate the person's body, on their own. We have forms that just release the body to us in any one of the medical schools.
So it can be done ahead of time if someone wants to plan it out, or it can be done as a last-minute decision by the family. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we can pre-register you, which is basically just signing a form saying that you would like to donate your body to the medical school. We give you a donor card that you keep with you in case something happens and no one's around and they know who to contact. And it just gives us all your vital statistics and who to contact in case there's an emergency.
Now, without going into too much detail, because I don't want to freak people out too much, because, it can be an uncomfortable topic for people, but can you briefly kind of explain what happens and take us through the process? I mean, if someone passes away, they contact you, or if they pre-planned, how do you get contacted, and how does the transportation of the body work, and are the local funeral directors involved? What happens?
Well, I am the funeral director for the school here. We work with funeral contractors throughout New York. Say a person dies, in your area, we would contact a local funeral home. They would make the preparations of removing the body from wherever the person passed, filling out all the legal necessary paperwork in that area, and then transport the body back down to Brooklyn here to us.
Again, this is Dying to Bloom, and we have on the line with us Michael McGillicuddy, Gross Anatomy Supervisor at SUNY Downstate Medical Center. Michael just mentioned he is also a funeral director there, and we're talking about donating your body to science, and the number here is 362-0013. What about, are there any expenses to the family? Besides, you did mention the death certificate, but are there any other additional expenses?
No, there's no cost to the family whatsoever. Unless, a person dies out of state and wants to be, donated to our school, then the family would be, held to for the cost of the transportation back to the school. But that would be the only cost.
Are there other schools in New York State that have this type of program?
In total, there's 15 medical schools in New York State, and every one of the schools has a anatomical gift program.
Do you know of any other that work with the Rockland County area?
In the Rockland area, you have, the schools in Manhattan. They're fairly close. And then you have, Albany, which is a little bit further north.
And you're located in Brooklyn, you said?
Yes, we're in Brooklyn.
Now, what happens again to the remains after the school utilizes the cadaver?
Once the students do the study, they learn on the cadaver. They just don't concentrate on one section of the body. They study the whole body. At the end of the school term, the bodies are cremated, and then we can return the cremains back to the family. We can scatter them at sea, or we have a common burial plot that we use.
And so there's no additional charge for that as well.
No.
If you return the cremains to the family?
Nope, there's no, like I said, there's no charge at all.
So, I find that interesting. I know this may be a difficult topic for some people to think about, but by doing this, you do serve the purpose of providing a teaching tool to medical students in our SUNY schools, and you also save on the huge cost that you may incur when someone passes away, whether it's cremation or burial or whatever, and you are able to get your loved one's remains returned.
Yes.
What if someone makes a commitment, contacts your school, decides they would like to do this, and change their mind? Is there a problem with that?
No, there's absolutely no problem at all.
Okay. What if, after the process, the family decides they want to see the body one more time? Is that possible?
What we try to do is get them to have a private viewing, before the body is taken to the school.
Okay.
Once the body is at the school, there is no more availability for them to see them.
If there was any medical studies or anything found out from the donated cadaver, do they have any access to the medical findings? Or
No, there is no access to that. I mean, the students study the whole structures. They're not looking for causes of death. That would be done more in a pathological study. Mm-hmm. We are just studying the whole anatomy of the body.
We're talking about donating your body to science here on Dying to Bloom with Michael McGillicuddy, Gross Anatomy Supervisor at SUNY Downstate Medical Center. Do people donate their bodies to science for other reasons?
No, I mean, they generally care. They want their bodies. A lot of people feel that they're gone, there's nothing left to them, and they want to provide a service, for teaching.
Now, this is a strange question, but how is business? I mean, are people doing this?
Yes.
How's your supply?
Our supply is good. I mean, we can always use more, but we're not going to go out and, look for business. But we have a steady stream of donations per year, enough to sustain the school.
And also, when I was doing a little bit of research and I put your name into the Google search on the computer, up came also, I guess, you received some type of acknowledgement for a system you set up on keeping track. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, we have a computer program that allows us to tag the body when it comes in, and that generates a number, and that number stays with the cadaver throughout the whole study. So if someone is going to study a hand, the hand will be tagged, studied, and scanned, and then once the study is done, it will scan it back, and it will be returned back to the cadaver.
So people can be assured that when they do get the remains back of their loved one, it is the remains of their loved one.
Yes, and the scanner also tracks the cremation too. So it's when the body is being cremated, the body is being scanned before it's putting in the crematory, and then once that's done, that number is still generated with those cremains.
Michael, this is the first time I'm talking about this topic, and I'm learning a lot myself, and I also have a little sense of uncomfortableness, but I'm also really intrigued, and I think it is a good thing. So I commend you for your work that you do with this project. I do find it a little surprising that next of kin can make the decision for their loved one to do this. I mean, it's good and it's bad, but I mean, I guess if someone has a will or their own written, desire of what they want, as far as, if I said I want a green burial and I had that written in a legal document, could my family members say, we're not going to do that, we'll just donate her body to science?
Unless someone's going to challenge them, yes, they can do whatever they would like. Unfortunately, that's the law, and the legal next of kin is the person responsible for, taking care of it.
Interesting. All right. I'm learning a lot about the legalities of the whole death industry as well by doing this show. So let me sum it up here a little bit, because, I think this is very interesting, and being that I do host this show and I am interested in the green burial industry, I talk about it a lot, and I've had people come up to me and tell me, I'm going to be cremated, and I did have someone actually, when I went on a recent cemetery tour in our area, come up to me and say, well, I'm donating my body to science, and that's the way I choose to go. So for those of you that may be considering this, even if you're not, it's nice to know what the options are out there. So, a regular funeral, I've said it before on this show, can run $8,000 to $10,000 in costs. When you're dealing with the funeral director, you're dealing with the transportation, and whatever means that you're going to utilize, whether it's a green cemetery, a traditional cemetery, embalming, or cremation, there's a lot of expenses incurred. So through this process, you are actually helping medical students here in New York, our SUNY schools. And Michael said that the school takes care of the expense of the transportation of the body with a funeral home that you work with. Correct, Michael?
Yes.
And Michael himself is a funeral director and does keep diligent track of the donated body, and after the time of use, it will be cremated and can be returned to the family. Or, like you said, Michael, you have other ways. What were the other ways of?
Right, the cremains can be scattered at sea, or we have a general burial site that we have.
Good morning, you're on Dying to Bloom.
Is there any tax status with this, deductions or anything?
No, not at all.
The people that donate the body don't get any money from you guys?
No, there's no funding for that.
Oh, okay. Just wondering.
That's an interesting question. Well, thank you for calling, Bill.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Kerry, for the information.
Okay, Bill.
Thanks for calling. And we do have another caller. Good morning. You're on Dying to Bloom.
Hi. Just a quick question. How is the body preserved for the time period that it's being used?
The bodies are embalmed. They're embalmed for the student's safety.
All right. Okay. So, when embalming, I don't know. I've read some of the books of as far as how the embalming procedure goes after listening to Gary's show, and doesn't that destroy some of the organs, things like that?
No, it preserves them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so I guess they don't use the regular.
No, we use an anatomical fluid.
I'm sorry?
It's called an anatomical fluid. It's a little bit different than a regular embalming solution.
Oh, okay. I understand now. All right. So then, I was just curious. Okay, and donating it, you just donate it for education purposes only when you donate it to science, or can you donate it for research or or
Well, it
the
is
use
it,
of grafts and things like that?
No, the only thing that can be donated prior to the school donation, you could donate your eyes. But any skin grafts or any other form of donation organs, after that we cannot accept the body.
Oh, I see. All righty then. Thank you.
Thank you. Those were some good questions. And so before we go to our next caller, let me just summarize some of those questions because I found it interesting. I think that caller was one asking if there are other ways to donate your body to science, like if they're doing a study on livers or something, if it could be used for that particular study. And what you were talking about, Michael, was people who want to do organ donations, that you can't really do both if you're going to donate your body to this program at one of the SUNY schools. However, you can't. That doesn't include the eyes, right? Did I sum that up correct?
That's correct.
Okay. We do have another caller on the line. Good morning. You're on Dying to Bloom.
Good morning, Carrie. Great show as always. And Michael, I love your title. That's great. My question was I was wondering if you ever reject bodies for any reason. Might there be a reason that you can't accept a body for study?
The only time we reject a body is if it's has a contagious disease.
Would you have to know that beforehand, or is that something you find out as you're examining it?
No, that's we try to find out at the time of death.
Like if somebody had, for example, Ebola or cancer. I mean, that's something you wouldn't...
Cancer is not a contagious disease.
Okay.
Ebola, yes. HIV, Creutzfeldt-Jakob, hepatitis. Those are the only things that really limit us.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. Good show.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you.
Michael, that poses a question I have for you, since you are a licensed funeral director, and I'm not sure if you have the answer to this or not, because it doesn't really fall in line with your program, but as one of the previous callers mentioned, I often promote, I do promote, as a matter of fact, green burial, and that includes not embalming, because I'm into, actually returning to the earth. Now, embalming for the purpose that you're talking about, I can certainly understand, because it has to do with utilizing the body for study, and it just makes sense. But my question is, since we were just talking about disease, is embalming required under certain conditions, such as a contagious disease in New York State? Do you know whether...
the embalming process is for sanitary reasons too, also sanitary and preservation. So if a person wants to do a open casket, New York State requires the body to be embalmed because the public is going to be viewing it.
Right. Now, I won't go into that because I do disagree with that a little bit. I mean, I know that is a requirement at the funeral homes, but funeral homes do not require embalming. So, yes, for public viewing they may, but if you just want to have a closed casket or not have a ceremony or just do your own type of ceremony.
Then embalming is not necessary, right. Not required.
All right. Let's work together on this, Michael. Well, again, we just have a couple minutes left. The number is 362-0013. This is Dying to Bloom. We have Michael McGillicuddy, Gross Anatomy Supervisor at SUNY Downstate Medical Center, on the phone, and we are talking about donating your body to science. There is a website.
Yes. Our website is www.downstate.edu.
Okay.
And there you can just, once you get into the main website of the medical school, you can just type anatomical gift, and all the information will come up.
And before we close, we have one more call. Hello, you're on Dying to Bloom.
Yes, I was just wondering if there's any age limitations. You take people up to a certain age, or...
Yes, there is no... Like I said, we don't take any children. So anyone over the age of 18 up to, we've had people donate their body. I think the oldest we've had so far was 102.
Oh, okay, that answers my question. I mean, I'm not 102 yet, but I Hopefully I will be, maybe.
Well, when you get to 102, give us a call.
I will, yeah. If there's still telephones by then. Okay, thanks so much for the show. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, Michael McGillicuddy, again, I love the name, and thank you for the service you provide for the students there at SUNY Downstate, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Carrie. Carrie, if I could just give you a email address if anyone has any questions for me.
Absolutely.
They can send them to me. It's anatomicalgift@downstate.edu.
Great. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Carrie. Thank you.
Wow, that was an interesting show. And again, as I do this show, I'd like to provide a variety of options, such as donating your body to science. And again, in a future show, I do plan on covering cremation, as well as alkaline hydrolysis cremation. And there's all kinds of things out there that I bet you haven't heard of. Again, it's not easy for us to think that our life will come to an end. Let's use that thought to encourage ourselves to live life to its fullest. Again, sometimes I like to close the show with a quote from Bronnie Ware, who's an Australian nurse who spent several years working in palliative care. And she did write a book, a best-selling memoir, The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And I'm just going to concentrate on one of those today. You know, maybe each show I'll touch on one of the 5. Today we're going to say, I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Now, many people suppressed their feelings in order to keep peace with others. As a result, they settled for a mediocre existence and never became who they were truly capable of becoming. And many developed illnesses relating to the bitterness and resentment they carried as a result. So, use that thought with you today. Have the courage to express your feelings, be yourself, and choose to be happy. I'm Carrie Potter for Dying to Bloom.